I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates Meanakeims.
All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
All right, welcome in to a crossover episode, Patriots Beat, Patriots Daily. Alex Barth, Brian Hines, Mike Cadlick, and Taylor Kyles. Weren't going to do a crossover today, but obviously we got the news. We've been spending months trying to figure out, and to be honest, a lot of us figured out, who will the Patriots starting quarterback be week one for the season. I won't bury the lead. Drake Maye telling us about half an hour ago it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. Brief, really like minute and a half press conference with the media, just kind of laying out Brissett's going to be the starter. He talked to both Brissett and Drake Maye this morning, talked to the team this morning, and that's the plan moving forward as of now. Obviously, things can change as they always do in the NFL, but instant reaction, guys?
I mean, not much of a surprise, even though Maye, as Mayo said, outplayed Jacoby this preseason. Like, their actions throughout the summer, Jacoby Brissett led off every training camp practice as a starter. He started all 3 preseason games. Like, everything they did indicated that Jacoby was going to be the guy, so it just kind of confirms what we already thought was going to happen.
And I still think what we saw from this summer was ultimately super promising from Drake Maye, right? I mean, it came in, the plan was Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback, Maye's going to learn and grow, and there was talks that he could redshirt the entire season. And so the fact that he even made it a talking point that this is a true competition and that the narrative changed from Jacoby's our starter to we don't have a starter yet tells you that he pushed buttons enough to show that, you know, he may start sooner rather than later here. Now, it makes sense. Start the season with Jacoby until things change. They call him the starter for the season. You have to. You can't go into that meeting this morning and be like, hey, Jacoby's our starter through week 5, and then we're going to turn it over to Drake Maye, or even allude to the fact that it's going to turn over eventually. You start with Jacoby, and you go from here. So it's the right decision, and that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I think this makes a ton of sense, and it seems like this was the plan pretty much all along. They've been saying since Jacoby was signed, and even when Drake Maye was drafted, that Jacoby Brissett is our starter. Now, obviously, with all the talk of competition, I know people were thinking, well, Drake's not getting reps with the one, so where's the competition really? Maybe internally they were just saying this competition is to see, should Drake Maye even play this season? We did see reports that they were considering maybe redshirting him, which, as they said, Jacoby has won games in the system. He's proven himself. He does have the ability to win these games, hopefully, and to go out there and at least be competitive, even though the preseason obviously wasn't great for him. So I think this makes a lot of sense, and as Alex Van Pelt said, you want to make sure that Drake Maye has the answers to the problems that are going to arise. He doesn't know what he doesn't know yet, so maybe get at least a month of film for him to be able to study and know how defenses want to attack this offense, then maybe plug him in if Jacoby Brissett doesn't give you this quality of play that you want.
Yeah, just to echo what you guys said, I mean, I think this is the right move in the sense that, one, it gives the team time. And first of all, I'm not being paid to say that, despite what some people on Twitter will tell you. I come up with the bad takes just for love of the game. It gives the team time to figure things out on offense. Not that they're ever going to fully figure it out this season. They won't. They don't have the personnel to do that. But to figure out the best case scenario, and it gives Drake Maye some time to kind of see what an NFL game week is like behind the scenes and the nuts and bolts of that. And don't kid yourself. There is value in that. Now the question becomes, okay, when does that change happen? As you said, Drake Maye said today for the season, was asked to kind of qualify that, said he didn't want to get into hypotheticals. I never expected him to name like a week 1 starter, because if he does that, we come back next week and have to do this whole thing again. And that, to me, is just sort of a placeholder, which is basically we'll have the conversation when it's time to have the conversation. It's not going to be after week 1, pending an injury. That's just the reality of it. I've said that. They're not going to want and done Jacoby Brissett. It wouldn't make sense. So when is the right time to have that conversation? I will say, based on Drake Maye's tone today, seemed maybe later rather than sooner, but based on Drake Maye's play, and this is what the competition was to me, how much could he close that gap? How much could he put pressure on the coaching staff? How much buy-in could he get from the locker room to kind of force the hand where he has to come in? It should be sooner rather than later. I'm still looking at October. I've talked about week 5. If it's week 6, week 7, you know, whatever, I still think that move happens in October. I don't think we're going to get 17 games of Jacoby Brissett, and if we do, something's probably gone incredibly right.
Yes, exactly.
In that case, like, he's earned that, and they're winning games. What are you guys looking at as the timeline?
I'll go first. I do agree. I think it's going to be sometime in October. And also, a vote of confidence for Drake Maye. Bailey Zappi was cut and then signed elsewhere. We were talking about early in camp, even kind of late. Well, if, you know, Jacoby Brissett either goes down or, God forbid, something happens, would they want to put Drake Maye in? Because you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Yeah. Now we know if something were to happen to Jacoby, who's gotten hurt in 2 of the preseason games after sacks, it's going to be Drake Maye's show. So I do feel like that is a little bit of a vote of confidence in the rookie because, as you mentioned, we have no idea if they intended to start him at all this season or what that plan was. But I do think, unless Jacoby lights the world on fire, which I think is unlikely because of the supporting cast, which does need some help, it's going to be after about a month when the offense realizes, like, we need some juice to really be a threat to these opposing defenses.
It's week 5. Week 5 against Miami here after the road trip to San Francisco. That's the landing spot. It makes too much sense. You can't go in and say that right now because again, you're not gonna sit here and say Jacoby's our starter for 4 weeks and then we're turning it over to the rookie. That's just not how this works. You have to have that quote unquote vote of confidence in your starting quarterback. Where if he plays well, and again, if that can change, if he does play well, as you mentioned, if he plays 17 games and lights the world on fire, and they're a fringe playoff team, you're not just going to turn it over to the rookie quarterback just because he's your tabbed future, right? But I do think that sweet spot is that week 5, 6, 7 area. 3 straight home games, I believe. 1, I think, is overseas in London. But you have a gauntlet to start this year. Let Brissett kind of, again, you don't want to let him take the hits, but that's kind of what this looks like right now. Get the offensive line figured out. You play San Francisco. You play the Jets. Get those behind your belt and come back strong against Miami week 5 with Drake Maye.
And you imagine Jacoby might not play great in those games, right? They're really tough opponents, so that would open the door for Drake Maye. I've been week 5, week 6, especially because you would shorten the season down for Drake Maye. He gets that college season. He only has to play 12 or 13 games. Hopefully you avoid the late rookie wall, but the other thing that Taylor mentioned is Jacoby Brissett's gotten hurt both of the first 2 preseason games. Like, we could be seeing Drake Maye week 1, week 2 out of necessity. So maybe it does happen sooner rather than later, even though Mayo just kind of said Jacoby is the guy for this season as of right now.
All right, before we keep going, Mike has some things to tell you guys about.
Prize Picks. Prize Picks, it's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, it's just you against the numbers, and all you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. It's the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So head over there today, download the PrizePicks app, use code CLNS, and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
We doing the other one now or one more question?
We'll do one question.
All right,
we'll
so let's do this. So Gerard Mayo said today, and has kind of said over the last couple of days in so many words, Jacoby Brissett, they feel right now is a better quarterback, and he said today he gives us the best chance to win right now. I think there's some truth to that, and he also talked about, what's better in the short term, what's better in the long term, maybe 2 different things. That is true. That I 100% believe. But how much does that have to do with the offensive line? Because I don't think the answer to that is 0. I actually think the answer to that is pretty significant.
I'll go because I actually did tweet about this. I don't think the supporting cast is as much of a factor as maybe externally we've been led to believe. Now, the offensive line obviously does have some effect. Alex Van Pelt slightly alluded to it when we asked him about it. He said that does play a factor, but Gerard Mayo also told us that wouldn't stop them from starting Drake Maye, and I think that makes sense. We talked about Jacoby Brissett taking the hits, which I don't like that idea. I don't think this coaching staff is talking about, like, hey, let him be the sacrificial lamb, protect Drake Maye.
Well, I'd hope they're trying to figure out a way to get neither quarterback hit.
Of course. But I think that Drake Maye is more
flak jacket out there, Jacoby.
Right. And I think Drake Maye, in some ways, is more able to protect himself because of his mobility, because of his ability to move around the pocket. Of course, like JT O'Sullivan pointed out, there is maybe a bit of a problem with him stepping into pressure a little bit, which is fixable. One of the reasons that you maybe don't want to play him out of the gate. But I also believe what they say with the offensive line. It's not as bad as we're making it seem. Like, I've seen it's a train wreck. This is a disaster. Like, come on.
They can't get lined up right.
Right. Like, that part is real. They need to be more disciplined. But you got David Andrews and Mike Nwenu. You know what you have in them. One of the guards, ideally, when everyone's healthy, is either City or Layden. I think those two are really promising players. Then Vidarian and Chuks Okorafor, we need to see them against top competition. But I think they're serviceable enough that you can get by a season with them. Worst case scenario, you kick Mike Nwenu outside, who you know is an okay tackle. So I don't think that they were saying this supporting cast absolutely cannot work with Drake Maye, because I think he elevates it, but I do think we'd be naive to think that it didn't play a factor at all.
So I think when we say figure out the offensive line, that automatically, puts people's minds to, well, they stink. They stink. And figure out the offensive line, get better players out there. It is more so the discipline thing than it is the actual players on the field, because we've seen that when they do the right thing, it can lead to success. But, I mean, the lining up in the backfield from Chuks Okorafor 3 times, like, that stuff just can't happen. That is straight up, we talked about on the show, error repeater stuff that cannot happen. And he admitted to it. He said that he's going to try and fix it. So, like, once you get the discipline figured out, I think you're going to be okay. The interior's fine. The exterior with the tackles, they need some help there. But with Drake Maye, you mentioned it, he can almost make the offensive line better and the operation run smoother. You saw it on Sunday in Washington where Jacoby gets sacked and he gets his shoulder crunched and he comes out for the rest of the game, where Maye is able to move out of pressure and extend the play and get a first down and things like that. So ultimately, the offensive line, the alarm bells, they should be sounded because it's not great, but it's also something that can be fixable. And I don't think it's just this train wreck that people try and say.
Brian.
Well, first of all, you said Chooks Okorafor said he'd try to fix it. He should have tried to fix it last Sunday night.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Right.
After he got warned.
We saw it in
after
practice
the
with the
first
money
time he got
No,
called,
yeah,
after
right.
the second time he got called.
Yeah, I think it's just
Can't happen.
a combination of giving it like a month or whenever we see Drake Maye. Again, the personnel's not going to vastly change. I know they claim 2 guys on waivers, but like, what are you going to expect?
They shouldn't
out
be
of those?
starting.
Yeah,
One of those guys a guard.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and like we saw it with like Tyron Wheatley last year. Like they trade for him at the deadline, and then he never plays. Right, so. The personnel isn't going to change much, but you just hope if it's 5-6 weeks into the season, they settle down, they get maybe healthy. City Sova, Darian Lowe, maybe Layden Robinson kind of emerges as a rookie there. And then the combination of that with Drake Maye's ability to move in the pocket, run, make plays with his legs. His offensive line was a mess at UNC, and he was a game changer
Right.
a lot. So I think you hope those 2 combinations at some point in the middle of the season or when he does take over kind of makes the whole operation look a little smoother.
All right, Mike's going to tell us about game time, and then I got one more thing I want to go over with you guys.
All right, so game time right now, if you want to go to Patriots at Bengals, take the trip to Cincinnati. I don't know if any of you guys are. If we are, we have press passes. But if you want to go, you can get in for as little as $154 right now on the Game Time app. Game Time has super deals, amazing deals, great deals. And that's not just me touting Game Time. That's literally what they're called on the app right now. So head over to Game Time. It's not just game tickets. It's also concert tickets. Brian was here at Kenny Chesney a few weeks ago through the Game Time app. Taylor went down to Mansfield. What's that place called? Xfinity Center?
Center.
Through the Game Time app.
cool there.
Yeah, it is cool there. And you can get in on Game Time right now. I'm not looking at a Game Time read. I'm looking at a different read. But head over to Game Time today. With Game Time picks, it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So head over there today. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Should I make Mike go first so there's no time to recover from that here?
Yeah, seriously.
All right, we'll take it. Let's just go off what Gerard Mayo said, right? Jacoby
Wait, he
Brissett's
said
better,
something today?
better quarterback right now. Jacoby Brissett's better option. What does Drake Maye need to improve? What does he need to work on between now and when he becomes a starter? And we won't see it because the practices are close. So it's tough to be like, well, what are you looking for, in his game? But behind the scenes, what should they be drilling him on the most? What should they be working on him with the most to get him ready to start? And what does he need to improve on most to earn that starting job?
We actually going to me first?
Yeah.
It's familiarity in the offense. It's seeing a game week through. It's seeing multiple game weeks through and continuing to learn behind Jacoby Brissett. Look, I'm of the mindset that if Mayo came out here today and announced Drake Maye as the starter, I would be okay with it. I think he's proven enough. He's the number 3 overall pick. He can play in this league. Now, it hasn't been perfect. There have been turnover-worthy throws. He's not like he went 13 of 20 the other night. Now, some of them were dropped. Others were there was a couple nice plays that got called back, etc. But he can play in this league. So I think it's more so just they're taking the time with him. He does need to improve on some little things, but it's better than I expected at week one of the regular season. So there's little improvements, but I think it's more so everything else around him that they're trying to get ready.
Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much with you. I think he could have started week 1.
Yeah.
Now, there's still – the big thing is the mental side of the game. You want him to get caught up on that, see those opposing defenses. They'll get a lot of great defenses, Mike McDonald, Lou Anamuro, really early in the season. So he'll get some good tests like there. Just watching it will be nice. But, yeah, I think he could have played. There's still some stuff. Taylor mentioned, like, working in the pocket that you'd like to hammer behind the scenes before he faces a live pass rush like the Jets or like San Francisco. So – just little stuff like that. But, yeah, I think he could have went out there and started if they need him to, and they might need him to even early if Jacoby goes down hurt. So
too.
I think another big part of it is going to be no regression. Like, continue. If you make mistakes in practice, make sure that whenever you get back out on the field, you show that you've learned from it and you can get better. He's done that throughout the season or the offseason. We saw it in the preseason as well, where whether it was practice or a previous game, you would see some incremental growth. Also, I would say quick game consistency, like going through the types of throws that he's made. Like, under center has looked surprisingly good. The straight drop back game, I think he has looked pretty consistent. The quick game is where he's less consistent because the footwork is so tied together and strict. Sometimes the accuracy is a bit weird, like you see the high miss to booty, and he was better, I think, against the Commanders, but you still saw some shades of that. But again, continued growth, more consistency in that quick passing game, which, if he's good at it, should take some pressure off of him and the offensive line. But really, I think he's doing what he needs to do now, as they mentioned. You're going to learn, what the defenses you're facing want to do to attack the offense that you're presented. Now he's got to make sure that he can also internalize that while, again, kind of continuing on the track he's been on.
Yeah, I think short accuracy is one. That's probably where he's missed the most, relatively speaking, early on here. You want to see him get better in that regard. And the chemistry.
Yeah.
He needs to have at least a full week with the starters before he's a starter. And what I mean by that is, let's use week 5, right, as, okay, he's going to come in week 5. Week 4, getting ready for San Francisco, he should be getting at least some of the reps with the starters, rotating with Jacoby Brissett. Now, that's part of the reason week 5 is ideal, because week 4, that Niners week, is a long week. You're coming off Thursday night in week 3, so you can give Drake Maye more time with the starters and still maybe not take away as much from Jacoby Brissett as you would otherwise. So those are two things for me, short accuracy and just chemistry with that top unit.
Quick question. Do we think that they're going to continue what they've been doing in training camp and have the rotation where – okay.
I don't – maybe not.
Like, maybe mixing and matching more so than, like, straight 1 to 2.
I think it could be what we saw that last week, where it's like, say they take 8 reps, Jacoby gets 6, and then Drake gets the last 2, something like that.
Yeah, I think they'll build up.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason we saw what we saw, you always have to remember, this was a big Belichick thing, they're very cognizant of what they're showing us. And they're going to show us certain things because they want us to think certain things or not think certain things. I don't think that they ever wanted to give us that much towards Drake Maye really making a push to be the starter because they knew he wasn't going to be the starter. Right. Now we can't see it. They don't have to worry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's a good
that makes
point.
sense.
Like,
That's why I asked.
The only thing there, too, is, though, it's like, all right, so week 1, or you're getting ready for week 1. Jacoby Brissett's your starting quarterback, and you're taking 1's reps against the Cincinnati Bengals defense, and you have Drake Maye out there. Everyone's kind of looking around like, well, this isn't getting us ready for week 1. I guess it is in the event that Drake kind of has to come in. He has to, prepare for that defense in case of an injury. But you still want to get the starting quarterback as many reps as possible, if not all of them.
And I would guess Joe Milton has very few reps, if any, this week.
Right.
And maybe that's why they're not signing a 4th quarterback yet. Yeah. If they do, I don't think that guy's going to rep outside of it in Milton, too, the scout team, obviously. But that's what a quarterback competition is. For all their talk about this has been a quarterback competition. Remember we did this last year, tracking the practice reps with Mack and Zappy, and we couldn't see it, but going into the locker room and asking players, did Mack rep at practice? Did Zappy rep at practice? What was the split? Like,
how many reps did Will Greer get?
Exactly. No, that was the thing. Remember, that was the
Devin
thing.
McCourty said that he thought Will Greer was going to start that week. He didn't. But
I think Matt Corral was 1 year ago today, honestly. We should have let off with that. But
probably because it's a waiver claim. That
hero.
That's what a quarterback competition is. If they're serious about what, and I know people have kind of rolled their eyes that they're calling this a quarterback competition, even though it's visibly not one, and that's understandable. I would say that's the case to this point. If this is really a quarterback competition, then that's what it's going to look like in practice, and Jacoby, as a veteran, is just going to have to make the most of what he has.
Also, one thing I just thought about, if Drake Maye is their scout team quarterback, a big thing I remember Jalen Reagor mentioned when he was on the scout team that he got to learn from a lot and replicate a lot of really good receivers because he was usually their number 1. Drake Maye, if he's a scout team quarterback, will be mimicking Joe Burrow, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers, the guy that he loves, and Brock Purdy. Some guys that I think it's pretty cool to take some things from. So if he's studying those guys to mimic them in practice, that could also be another sneaky benefit. I'm not trying to, cope or anything. Just truly, that's the job of a practice or a scout team quarterback. I think that could be a cool.
I wouldn't have him running the scout team.
You have Joe Milton?
Yeah. I would have Joe Milton simply because I want Drake Maye on Jacoby Brissett's hip, on Alex Van Pelt's hip, the entire practice right there. They're going to split field that. They usually split field that, where the offense and defense are working simultaneously. I want, to the point of learning what an NFL game week is like, I don't want Drake Maye studying the Bengals offense. I want him studying the Bengals defense with Jacoby
That's
Brissett
a
and
fair
learning
point,
to
yeah.
prepare for a game and things like that. So not to totally dump all over
Only
your
reason
take, Taylor.
I'm hesitant about Joe Milton being the scout team quarterback is we've seen the inconsistency. Like, I do wonder, like, Bailey Zappi a lot of the time was leading that charge, so
Yeah.
I wonder if they think that he is good enough to give them a look. That's just,
It's
my
more about
curiosity.
intent than results on the scout team.
That's
You're
a good
going
point.
off of cards, whether or not the throw's on the guy. Are you
You're still getting away.
Are you
covering
in
the
the
route?
area?
Right.
Right.
Are you in the route? Are you recognizing the route combinations? That's not to say that it wouldn't help to have a better scout team quarterback, obviously, but
And sometimes they bring in fast
I think
quarterbacks for a week or
for-
two to mimic.
Yeah.
you
for a
know,
guy that ran
Matt Corral.
or just John Jones.
For a guy
Yeah,
that
right.
ran 4 offenses in 6 years in college, I think and given his physical skill set, I think Joe Milton will give you what you need from a scout team quarterback right
Fair.
now.
One question, I guess, it's in the back of my head now as
Yeah.
far as Drake Maye played against vanilla defenses in the preseason games and played well.
Yeah.
Now you want him to see how defenses, actually run in a game with disguising coverages and, moving the shells and whatnot. Is that obviously you can learn some being on the sideline, but is there a point where you have to he just kind of does have to go in the game and see it for
You
real?
have to play football to get better
Yeah.
at football.
Right, and I know that's sort of a talking point here, but like you see these great defenses and the Jets that we think will be good, and since he's good with Anarumo and obviously the 49ers, and look, I don't think they should throw him into the fire either, but it would also help his cause a little bit to actually see those in-game reps instead of just sitting on the sideline and then going and watching the film of the 49ers after the fact.
We'll look at the Jets later on. They've got,
True.
the Bears. That's a good defense. They've got, I'm trying to remember
Rams.
scheduling out. Talking about the Rams. That's
There's
a
a
great
lot of
point.
good
Yeah.
defenses on the
It-
schedule. He'll have his chances.
I'm not worried about Drake Maye not seeing good defenses. Let me put it that way. He's going to get plenty of chances to see good defenses. So, Brian, any final thoughts?
No, I'm crushed. I think it's probably best for him, even though he
Yeah.
could have started. But yeah, hopefully we'll see him in October at some point.
So-
I think that's the good landing point.
Let's actually close there because I think a lot of people are missing this point. You could not like this decision, like emotionally, and still recognize it's the best decision.
Yeah.
100%.
We all want to see Drake Maye, and it's nothing against Jacoby Brissett. First-round pick, 3rd overall quarterback, shiny new toy. Everybody wants to get this next era of Patriots football underway. Like, I get that. We're all there. As I've said time and time again, I've been saying this since we did it with Mac Jones in 2021 and Cam Newton. I will sacrifice the month of September for 5 to 10 years of better football down the road.
100%.
Amen.
I know everybody
I
wants to see
heard
the Patriots.
15 years, actually.
Great, 15. I'll sacrifice a month and a half for 15 years. Brian.
Perfect,
I'll tell you what, if
perfect.
you're going to throw another 5 years on there, I'll give you an extra 2 weeks. I know we all want to get this next era underway. I know we want to see this offense get back to at least, it will never be what it was, but like competitive and close to what it was. You've waited 3 years, Patriots fans. You can wait another 4 weeks. That's what I tell you at this
Preach.
point. I know people are going to hate to hear that. I just think that's the reality of the situation, and we'll see. All right, let me close here. It's a beautiful day out. Really, it is. Sun's out. I'm the only one wearing jeans. I feel like an idiot because Brian's got a long sleeve on. But like, this is a late summer, nice late summer, early fall day. Are we wearing winter coats in the video where we're talking about Drake Maye making his first starter? What are we wearing in the video when we're talking about Drake Maye making his first start? Taylor, you're the fashion expert. You're the closest thing to fashion expert we have
I
up
already
here. I'll
know
start
what
with
winter
you.
jacket I'm going to be wearing. Yeah,
So it is a winter jacket
Yeah,
then?
it's going to be a winter jacket.
Well, you're also from LA. You're going to wear a winter jacket like September 25th.
I'm
so
getting
it's a bad-
reacclimated
it's a
to
bad
East Coast
example.
weather again. I'll defend myself a little bit there.
And somebody clip this when we have this video so we can
Yeah.
see how close we were. Mike, what are you
It's-
wearing when we talk about Drake Maye as a starter?
It's pants, it's a sweater, it's not a jacket, you said. It's going to be October, probably a crisp fall day, a little bit cooler than a day like today, so you're going to want some sleeves on, but we're not going to be in hats and parkas or anything.
Green leaves on the trees, orange leaves on the trees, or no leaves on the trees?
Orange. Oh, there's orange leaves right there
That's true.
already.
Also, I didn't
So-
account for like global warming, so maybe not. I might be wearing the exact same thing in October. I have no idea.
I have a nice Carolina blue quarter zip that
There you
I'll
go.
pull out of the closet for that.
Maybe
day.
I'll
Just
be
every
doing it,
week in October, just to be safe.
Maybe I'll be doing it from the beach. Who knows?
That
Maybe.
could
That'd be very on
December.
brand.
Quarter zip. I think it's quarter zip weather. All
Yeah,
right.
all right.
We'll wrap it up there. We got open locker room coming up. I think. Do you guys have anything coming between now and Monday, or?
We're going to have a mailbag this afternoon.
Okay.
So continue to ask your questions if you want to on Twitter, at @TKyle39, at Mike Kavlik.
So another Patriots Daily coming up later this afternoon. Patriots Beat. I think we're good probably till next week.
game previews next
So, yeah,
week.
we'll start game previews next week. Maybe a little college football talk, too, I think,
100%.
with week 1 coming up on Saturday. Until next one, you can read these guys on CLNSmedia.com. Brian's got a recap of Gerard Mayo's press conference up on patspulpit.com. You can check my stuff out on 98.5thesportshub.com. For Taylor Kyles, Mike Cadlick, Brian Hines, I'm Alex Barth. Great job by Almond behind the camera. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.